Hi, welcome back to ODE YouTube channel. Today we are here for another Inkvent Calendar 2021 edition, and let's see the door number 4 for the 4th of December. Like yesterday, the door is right at the bottom of the box, so let's see it. This is quick. And what we have here is Tempest, and it is a shimmer ink. And I can't really say which color this is. It looks like a petrol by the label, and it seems to have a kind of a greenish golden shimmer. At least that's what it looks like down there. So let's see how are the properties of this ink in the rest of this video. So I'll be right back. So let's make now the swatch of this ink number 4. You can see there is lots of sheen on this side, so we really need to shake this one to be sure the shimmer is, it says there, the shimmer is in suspension in the ink, and then we remove the cap. Let's put it here. Let's bring our pipette and 1 drop, 2 drops. Oops, that final drop kind of exploded. 3 drops. Okay, this is enough. Let me just cap this to avoid stupid accidents. Done. And now let's bring the Victorinox knife and let's see how the swatch looks like. Wow, this color is very, at least when wet, because sometimes when the swatch is dry they are not as interesting. You can see that this ink has lots of things going on. So you have kind of jeans blue, I would say, with a much darker part when it has more color, and there you can see, I think it's some green sheen. Let me just use the knife to point it. There, I think you can see some kind of green sheen. But now we need to let it dry, and I'll be right back to show you the rest of the review when the ink is completely dry. So I'll be right back. So it's now time to see the actual ink review. So it comes in this little bottle that I showed you. This is a shimmer ink, and it tells us it's kind of blue, but let's see how this dried. So let me put it here, and the swatch is what will show you how the ink will look like. And here you have it. You have a very kind of grayish, dusty blue with a very strong, very fine also gold shimmer. So it's a very fine shimmer, and you can see it. It's a dusty, not very dark, only here where more ink pulled on the paper. And you can see, like this, directing to that light, you have lots of gold shimmer. When you direct it to the other, you'll see more the particles glowing. So very beautiful ink, I have to say. I think this is a very interesting ink, but very difficult to compare with any other ink I have. Let me take the bottle away and show you this ink, the number 4 Tempest, with other dusty inks. I have these, Pelikan Edelstein Aquamarine, which is also kind of a dusty ink, but not as dull or grayish as the Tempest is. I also have the Kaweco Midnight Blue, which is also some kind of, you feel that it is that dusty blue, but it is much darker and more saturated than the Tempest. And finally, you have the Diatramentis Document Ink Dark Blue. And yes, this color, I would say, is the most similar to this one as I have in my collection. However, this one has a tone of purple in it, and this one is really a blue. But it is the most similar one. And if we have to make some comparison with an ink from the 2019 Diamine Inkvent Calendar, the blue edition, I have this one, which is my favorite ink, and it is comparable not in colors. The colors are not the same, but what can we say? They are both dark inks, at least they look dark on paper. This one is a brownish, grayish, dusty brownish ink with a very nice green glitter. This one is a dusty blue with a gold glitter, and they are not the same in any way, but I can say that I kind of like them the same way, because I think this kind of dusty ink with the shiny shimmer looks very interesting. Maybe it's more interesting to have this very strong contrast between these than to have a very vibrant color with a very vibrant shimmer and also with some sheen. Maybe that's too much information, maybe. So let's take this away, and I want to show you now the chromatography that I made. And what I can see is that there is a line there at the end where you can see the shimmer state, the line that I draw, and it is gray, so it has some ink resistance. Sorry, some water resistance, because there is some gray there. But it is very heavy line, so maybe it will not be very readable on actual paper. And there you have the colors. It has kind of a pinkish magenta color, then clearly a green and a light blue. So it is an interesting mix of colors that give origin to this ink. Now, which pens did I choose for this video? I chose the Benu Euphoria Caviar, which is a pen that I really like, and it has glitter on it, as Benu pens often have. This is a very nice combination of glitter and well-behaved professional pen. I really enjoy this pen. It has a medium Schmidt nib, and this pen has been always used with the number 22 from the Inkvent Calendar 2019. So this is my favorite, kind of a favorite ink that goes in this pen exclusively because I really like it, but now I went for the new one, the Tempest. And I also have this pen, which is a Jinhao Centennial in this kind of koi finish, very bright pen, and it has a fude nib, which is also fun to show inks, especially inks that have some shimmer, and that's why I chose this pen. And let's see how many pens I will have to have two very different nibs to show for each ink. There are still 21 inks to go. So let me show you the writing samples. Let me take this out of the way, and I will show you first how it behaves on Moleskine paper, then on Oxford optic paper, and then on Navigator paper. So first on Moleskine paper, which is a cream ivory paper, you have this writing. This ink looks really more a gray than a blue with the gold shimmer, and you can see the shimmer. It's not easy to understand if it is gold or any other color, but it really looks like a gray and not like a grayish blue that you can clearly see on the swatch. Even here on this kind of swatch, here it looks a little bit more on the blue side, but the glitter doesn't seem that golden there. The ink behaves well on the paper. It feathers a little bit, but I think it's more the fault of the fibers of the paper than the ink, but it really bleeds through, at least with the Food and Nib, which is this sample below. It bleeds through on the Moleskine paper, but again, that's a Moleskine paper characteristic, not so much the ink. On the Oxford optic paper, which is a very nice paper for ink samples, it also looks like a gray. When you look very carefully, you can see it may have there a hint of blue on that gray, but it's not that easy to understand. Here you don't see much shading, but here you can clearly see there is some shading with the Food and Nib. With the medium nib of the Banu, you cannot see that. The shimmer is more visible here on this paper, and about the behavior of the ink is perfect because the paper is good. And then we have the Navigator copy paper, where you can also see the shimmer, and you can see it better than on the Moleskine paper. You can see the shimmer also on the writing, even on the Banu, but more on the Jinhao, and it is quite spectacular. And I'm not completely sure why, but I think this paper may absorb more the ink than the Oxford paper. You can see better the golden shimmer on the writing sample, but in another way, and that makes sense with being more absorbent, you don't see shading. About this, you have a little bit of bleed through, not much, but you have some bleed through. So this is how the ink behaves. Now let's go for our Rhodia dot pad, and this is Rhodia also. On the Rhodia you have this writing where it's very hard to see the shimmer, and it really looks like a gray ink. Only when you make the smear test to see the drying time, you can see the blue part on that smear test. It takes around 20 seconds to dry, so not bad, but for a professional use it may take a little bit, but many professional uses you won't be using a shimmering ink. And then for the water resistance, I have this kind of line, and I dropped a few drops of water, I let them there for some minutes, and then I absorbed the water with a paper tissue. And you can see that the ink lifted from the paper, but you can still read the line. So this ink, if wet, you can still see what you wrote. And the most strange thing is how you don't see the shimmer on the Rhodia paper. It's very strange to me, maybe because it's not that absorbent. But you can see this ink has some water. It's not waterproof. It has some water resistance, and it's this line that you can see here. You can complete the lines that I made on the paper with this kind of gray outline that was left after the water rested there for a while. And now finally let's look at it with the pens. First we'll go to with this amazing pen, the Benu Euphoria, and let's write the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, and also with the Jin Hao and these crazy food and and the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. I'm doing this in the angle that I have the widest line possible so we can see more about it. I know that this one is not dried yet because it takes around 20 seconds, and there on the Benu you can see some shimmering now in this sample. But what seems to happen is that there is more shimmering on the start of the sentence, maybe because it was more concentrated on the nib, and then when you go to the word dog you see much less shimmer. So it looks a lot of shimmer here, but you only see it really well when it is very concentrated. Here with the Jin Hao, I think you can see it all the time throughout the writing. Not a lot of shading. Here it looks just a dark gray ink, almost even a black. That means that this ink is very usable because it has a dark color, it's subtle, yet it has that sparkling thing that maybe only you'll notice, and you'll find that funny to use this maybe in a professional context. So this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll meet again tomorrow for day number 5. Bye!